This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stockbox interview.
Okay, let's go. Well, welcome back here to the Research Talks from Stockbox with Alan Green. At the end of yet another week, Alan, how are you doing? We're into May now.
Into May, and it's been a lovely week, hasn't it? It really has. I was in London yesterday, meeting up with friends and colleagues, and it was beautiful up there. I was walking through town, had a suit, shirt and tie on, and
Alan Green in a suit. Wow.
It's a rarity. It's a rarity, but it does happen.
Me as well, though. I'm not a suit man.
No, I have to say, if I can possibly avoid wearing a suit, I will. But actually, just occasionally, it's quite nice to stick a suit on and all the rest of it. But walking through London, it was about 24 degrees. It was so warm. It was just lovely. Yeah. And same again today. So it's a nice benign. There are no clouds on the horizon. It's just bit hazy perhaps, but another lovely sunny day in prospect, and the prospect, I think, of a sunny weekend too, which is even better.
Always nice, isn't it? Always nice. Well, thank you for joining us again, Alan. Of course, 3 companies we're going to cover today. A couple of mining companies, Thor and Gold Metal Resources, who are getting into a very active drilling program. Could be a very exciting summer for them, actually. I'm really looking forward to following that. It's always the summer's always it's a double-edged sword, isn't it, for me? Because you sort of feel that the markets become less liquid, or as people go on holiday. But of course, you have the nice weather to enjoy. But if we've got something to keep us entertained, if an exploration company is being active, then that makes it even more better. You can be enjoying your barbecues whilst also keeping tabs on stories developing in the markets as these North American and Canadian companies get active. So I'm looking forward to following GMET. But before we start on the mining companies, a new one, an IPO that you mentioned last week, Electric Guitar PLC. What an interesting name. So I'll let you talk us through this proposition, Alan.
This is a really interesting company, Mark, and although on the face of it, data may not sound that interesting to a lot of people, we're on the cusp of entering the Web3 era, and of course, what that means is hitherto, when we browse the internet, when we use social media, advertisers will put cookies on your hard drive, depending on which browser you use, of course. I think with Firefox and Safari, you're pretty well you're pretty well protected now from third-party data. But certainly, Google Chrome browser, other browsers, the third-party cookies will get dumped onto your hard drive, and then advertisers tend to follow you around. So, of course, if you're looking at something on Instagram and then you jump to Facebook, you'll start to see similar ads. And the advertisers work on the theory that if they bash you over the head enough with the message, you may sign up. And it is a formula, actually, that works.
It does work. It does work.
It does, but because eventually, and this is the principle of advertising. I mean, my wife and I are just coming to the end of watching Mad Men, which had been recommended to us as a great series years ago. And of course, this is pre-digital advertising, but the principles behind advertising remain. If you're buying enough media, if you're in front of everyone, then your message will get across and your sales will go up. And that's how advertisers work. And of course, that's all well and good, but a lot of people don't want to see the ads, and they want to take ownership of their data. So Electric Guitar is effectively a reverse takeover of a company called 3 Radical Limited. And 3 Radical have developed their Voco software, which is already deployed by major brands across the UK, the US, and the Asia Pacific region. And this software is used in financial, online gaming, and e-commerce companies. Now, it'll get to a point where the cookie data that's dumped onto hard drives will be switched off, and it will then change to what Electric Guitar referred to as a people first data propositions. So the principles behind people first data for marketers are very key. There are three core or key performance indicators, if you like. Firstly, in terms of engagement, marketers have got to cut through the noise and create engagement by forming meaningful connections with their audience. The second KPI there is data. So marketers have got to create first party data relationships with consumers, because as the consumer going forward, we will have complete control over who sees us, over what ads we see, if we want to see any ads at all, and our online presence. So that's control, instead of being controlled by the big few who generate billions in advertising revenue every year from this. It's going to be handed back to us, the consumer, which is fantastic. But it also, of course, poses a challenge for companies that want to reach us with their messages. So it's now down to the marketers to form these meaningful connections, create first-party data relationships with us, and then create on the back of that a data-driven or machine learning, if you like, AI-driven understanding to deliver meaningful connections. And this will, as going forward, become the most important driver of advertising ROI, or return on investment. And when you consider companies like Facebook are earning billions every year, I mean literally hundreds of billions of dollars in advertising revenue, this, you can understand why this is going to be such a pivotal moment for the internet. So 3Radical is the chief executive of Electric Guitar is John Regan, and John has had a relationship with the guys at 3Radical for some years, and he's worked to bring the company to market. It's been some time in its inception, but the IPO finally got away last week. They raised 1.3 million at 2.1p, which gives the company a market cap of about £4.5 million. Within that, the board, so that's John Regan, chief executive. John owns 4% of the company. Caroline Warboys, David Eldridge, he was the founder of 3Radical, and other non-exec directors, all between them owned about 12% of the company. John Hutchison, the chairman, will own 2.5%. So we're going to start to see these steps being taken by Electric Guitar and 3Radical in the coming weeks. We're going to hear more about the software, how it works. But there are a few interviews out there with John already. I'll be speaking with John at some stage to find out more, and we'll obviously broadcast that across our network. But the company's on the cusp of entering what's going to be a huge sea change in the market, and they're one of the leading proponents. That there are other companies in this area, but because 3Radical Voco software is already being used, the company are in the marketplace already generating revenue from this. So it's early days, but it's a really exciting opportunity. And the share price has drifted since IPO, but to gain exposure to this area, I think this company offers a really exciting opportunity, and we're going to be seeing a lot from them. They have a lot planned in the coming weeks and months.
Good. Okay. Very interesting. I mean, we talked about this concept. It's more than the concept, isn't it? Web3. It is actually happening. But of course, we talked about this with Malcolm Palais on the podcast sort of a week or two ago, and we actually covered this exact topic, didn't we? Advertising and almost putting that control back into the hands of the individuals, and deciding what you want to be shown and what you do not want to be shown. So this is an element of that, sort of at the start of this Web3 implementation. What are their do they have milestones, Helen? They've come to the market, they've raised 1.3. Do they have certain I assume they have a plan to grow and to deploy that capital to advance what they've got. What are the sort of highlights that perhaps them looking out for over the next 6 months or so, do you think?
Well, I think they're already established with numerous financial services, online gaming, and e-commerce brands. So I suspect the money being raised is being used to further develop the reach and the implementation by companies across these areas. But it's also going to be used to fast track and further develop the software. So we're going to be hearing a lot more from the company in the coming weeks. But there are some good articles around at the moment that just explain the marketplace. And as you say, we spoke to Malcolm, and obviously they have Coincilium have their own sort of version. Obviously, Bazaar is one of the advertising services, the new Web3 based advertising services that they'll be bringing to market. But this is really all about empowerment of the consumer, and I think that it's a really exciting. We're on the cusp of a real change in the way we use the internet, and also how our data is processed. I think there was a very good analogy by John Regan in a recent interview where he described Web3 for the consumer as being like visiting your tailor. With you'll go in and you'll be measured up completely, and you'll have something at the end of it that completely fits you and suits you, sir, to coin a phrase. And that's exactly how Web3 will work for us, the consumer. So it's tailored exactly to our personal requirements. So your requirements will be different to my requirements, will be different to Malcolm Pali's requirements, and so on. So that's the basis behind it, and this is a company that's empowering that process.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much for introducing that to us today, Alan. That's something a bit different, but it's nice to see more opportunities, only in a week there from talking to Malcolm about Web3, to see another opportunity there that we sort of picked up in that space. So maybe we'll only see more of these opportunities coming around as we go down the next iteration of the internet. But Indeed. Let's talk about some mining companies then, Thor Energy and GMET, that's Gold and Metal Resources. So who do you want to take first?
Okay, well, let's discuss Thor Energy first of all. And what's interesting, I think we said before we came on air that looking at market valuations of the companies in the marketplace right now, and the challenges that we've often discussed about companies listed in London, and the challenges they have in articulating what they're doing and building that feeling of excitement and opportunity and potential, growth potential with investors. And I think you've got two companies that, in a sense, are in a very similar position, but have entirely different market capitalizations. And there is a connection. Of course, the Thor was originally involved with Pilot Mountain some years back, so that there is a nice connection.
There's a connection there. Yes, absolutely.
Between the two. But of course, Thor Energy, listed on AIM, shares currently trading at a penny, giving it market capitalization of just 2.5 million. Shares have traded just below a penny and as high as 3p on the current year. And this company is also dual listed on the ASX. And it has just been announced that the company has called an ASX trading halt in order to raise funds, which is good. And the company certainly has a broad range of projects, a broad and diverse range of projects that I think are very apt and very important in the marketplace today. Certainly for clean energy and the new clean energy revolution. So just to go through the projects briefly, the company's got a 100% interest in 3 uranium and vanadium projects in the Uravan mining belt, which is on the border of Utah and Colorado in the USA, namely the Wedding Rail project, the Radium Mountain project. And in these areas, there are numerous historical mines that have been operating on and off since the First World War, and also latterly in the late 20th century. There's also also within that group is the Vanadium King project, where there are some 100 mining claims in southeastern Utah, located some 40 kilometers north of the town of Moab. And in this area, there's been a lot of oil wells drilled over the years. Hunt Oil drilled for all there in the 1980s, and the data that they pulled out of the ground at that point indicated widespread uranium and vanadium mineralization. We then go to Australia, where the company has an interest in EnviroCopper, and the projects here are the Kapunda Copper Project, the Alpha West Copper project, and the primary project, which Thor has up to an 80% interest in, which is the Alford East Copper and Gold Project, which also has a rare earth element or rare earth intersections there too. And this made quite a splash over the past few days. Nicole Galloway-Warner, of course, the chief executive, was featured in Hey Dirt magazine, and the article looked at the existing resource, or the historical resource there, of 125 million tons of copper at 0.14%. Well, that's which equates to 177,000 tons of contained copper and 771,500 ounces of contained gold. A precision in situ recovery, or ISR, drilling program is underway there, which Nicole says is a win-win with the community. It also keeps costs down, and as I mentioned, there are rare earth intersections there too. Third project is the Ragged Range project. This is in Western Australia, some 92 square kilometers in the Pilbara, adjacent to Greatland Gold's Panorama project. And here there are 8 gold target sites, and over a strike distance of some 13 kilometers. Nickel's also been identified, and also lithium, cesium, and tantalum pegmatites have been identified there in abundance. And there's an area there called the Split Rock Supersuite, which is highly prospective. A number of projects working there, looking for these clean energy metals, and it's located adjacent to the Split Rock Supersuite. So the fourth project is the Molly Hill project, and this is in the Northern Territories. Again, 100% of ownership here. There's a 2021 mineral resource estimate, just under 12,000 tons of tungsten. There was a farming agreement there with ASX listed Investigator Resources, and there are also some the Molly Hill project also includes the Bonya deposits, which is part of the process. So just a word on the board. I said Nicole Galloway-Warner, of course, the chief executive, managing director, 25 years experience in the market. She's also the director of the Australian Institute of Geoscientists, highly respected lady. Chairman Alistair Clayton, many years in the business, long established, and non-exec director Mark McGough. He's a real industry veteran, 40 years exploring for gold in Australia. Was involved in the White Dam gold deposit discovery, the Thesis uranium discovery, and he's also been involved with Chinova Resources, Toro Energy, Xstrata Copper, and of course the Mount Isa mines there. So that's a team with real caliber and to take the projects forward. So there's been a lot of development over the past year, but I'm going to just focus on what's happened this year, and going on to the interest in EnviroCopper, which of course is the Kapunda Copper Project. In January this year, a company called Alligator invested $900,000 Australian dollars into EnviroCopper for a near 8% stake, and that followed a visit by the team to the Kapunda Copper ISR project. ISR, of course, in situ recovery, and then in February, the company announced with the US project high-grade uranium vanadium assays from Weddingbell and Radium Mountain projects. They pulled in uranium at about 0.6% and vanadium at 1.8%. Nicole Warren said at that point, the results confirmed the presence of wide intervals of high-grade uranium mineralization within what she referred to as a vanadium halo. So great progress there. Then, of course, in March, back to the Oil for the East copper project, where following the early results, the company put together a 3D model, which put together a structure of the copper oxide and rare earth element mineralization, and the model has helped the company to gain a deeper insight into refining their targeting strategy, and also it's an area that's been explored numerous times historically, and historically has delivered negative drill results, which prompted the majors working there to leave the area. And what this 3D model has done, it's provided some insight into the reasons why, and has also provided, on the back of that, a refined targeting strategy. So when the drilling starts, it's going to be pretty exciting. Then last month, we had the update from the company. Investigator Resources had completed their first stage of commitment at Molly Hill and Bonnier. They'd funded $1 million of exploration activities. And on the back of that, Investigator Resources now owns 25% interest. But Thor, on the back of that, has earned $250,000 worth of shares in Investigator Resources. And of course, with this JV now running, Thor can now focus on its key projects, which are, of course, the US uranium and vanadium projects and Alford East copper and rare earths project. I mentioned the ASX trading halt. Nicole Warland is also this week presenting at Sydney Resources Roundup Conference. So once the fundraising is complete, I think we're going to see the pace of developments accelerate. But at 2.5 million with that range of 2.5 million market cap with that range of projects, it's going to become good at some stage. I mean, we said beforehand, Mark, of course, with Golden Metal Resources, Golden Metal Resources have a bunch of projects in Nevada, very focused. But since it came to market, it's just powered ahead and now has a market capitalization of 14 million. And just looking at the quality of the projects that Thor Energy have, it does make you wonder why the company doesn't have a higher market capitalization, and perhaps the funding that it's raising now will provide the catalyst to develop the projects to the next phase and hopefully provide further drivers for the share price too.
Indeed. No, it's nice to see Thor sort of coming out a bit more and sort of talking about their story. I'm sure they'll be on Stockbox a fair bit more. I know they've got quite a few things going, and suspended in Australia, they're pending a raise. So let's see how that goes. But they get the funds to go on and carry on with their copper exploration, but also, of course, the uranium in the United States, which is the I think what Nicole sort of wants to sort of focus on, really, particularly with because it used to be Thor Mining, didn't it?
It was Thor Mining, yes, indeed, yeah.
And it's changed to Thor Energy, so the focus is obviously more down the energy route, which is rightly so. I mean, copper, uranium, it's all good stuff at the minute to be involved in.
Well, it is. These are metals that are powering the clean energy revolution. So, and certainly the focus on uranium is very hot at the moment. Perhaps that's the wrong term to use where uranium is concerned. But yeah, it's the company's in the right space. It's mining the right metals. It's discovering the right metals, and there's got to be a revaluation at some point, because it does seem to be a very lowly valuation for such a diverse and advanced range of projects. And also, that joint venture at Molly Hill, that's really it's the announcement in April by Investigator Resources. That's a real line in the sand there. So completed stage 1 commitments. They funded $1 million of exploration activities. Investigator Resources now owns 25%, but Thor has earned £250,000 worth of shares from Investigator as well. And obviously, it won't be selling those shares because it's invested into the project, but it means that they can refocus their energies onto both the uranium and Alford East copper and rare earths projects.
Indeed. Well, thank you, Alan. Thank you very much for that. So let's finish off with gold and metal then. We can.
Gold Metal Resources. Well, Oliver Friesen, CEO of the company, has literally blazed a trail, and I think he's probably one of the best CEOs out there at articulating progress, because he's very adept with the use of social media. You'll see Oliver on the ground there in Nevada, talking through what he's working on, what they're discovering, and of course this will accompany an announcement. So you can get a very clear picture by following Golden Metal Resources and also Oliver's own personal Twitter account. You can see exactly what's happening at any given stage. And of course, Golden Metal was spun out of Power Metal Resources. Of course, Power Metal Resources still have a significant stake in the company. They've got 62%, and they're locked in fact, until May 2024. So I think currently, with the way the share price is progressing, I'm sure that Sean and the management team at Power Metal will continue to hold, because this is only going one way. It seems to me it's had an incredible year, and if you look at the chart since IPO, it's almost the complete opposite to a lot of the charts that we see for mining companies. It's just steady gains all the way, and that's a lot of that's down to the way Oliver has articulated the investment proposition. But I said, of course, Gold Medal, they're focused in Nevada, and the connection with Thor Energies, of course, is that they acquired the Pilot Mountain project from Thor some years ago. And Pilot Mountain has an established mineral resource estimate of 12.5 million tons of tungsten, and is the largest undeveloped tungsten resource in the USA. The company also took on a Mrs. Chango Tukmani to work with Gold Metal as strategic US government advisor. Mrs. Turkmani also has a stake in the company, and she's working with Oliver and the management team to shape Gold Metal's strategy to secure non-dilutive funding going forward for Pilot Mountain. And of course, we've seen examples of non-dilutive funding. For example, Blencowe Resources, they had the US DFC funding package, that $5 million, and I think they've just received the third or the fourth tranche. So that funding is going into fast track the Oran Cross graphite project in Uganda, and the company is making very good progress. So the same principles will apply here. So we have the Pilot Mountain project, and through exploration work, Oliver and the team have discovered that there's an extensive copper porphyry system at Pilot Mountain as well. Then alongside Pilot Mountain, there's the Golconda project, and it's at the confluence of the Getchell and the Battle Mountain and Eureka projects, which are long-established mines in that region in Nevada. Prospective for copper also, but a lot of development at Golconda recently. Also, the Garfield project, which is in Mineral County in Nevada, copper prospective for copper and gold. Two significant copper zones discovered there. That's Powerline high grade zone, and also the Pamlico gold zone as well. And there is a magnetic bullseye close to the high grade zone there also. So that's Garfield, and then of course we have the Stonewall project, which is a 1.2 kilometer long quartz vein in the ground. They're prospective for gold, and also the Kibby lithium, or the Kibby Basin lithium project, where two packages which are prospective for lithium are less than 250 meters from a hole drilled a couple of years ago. And all of these projects are in very close proximity to Pilot Mountain. So from a logistical standpoint, it's a very economical package of assets to own, because of course you can get the team on the ground and they can probably be on the ground and cover most of those projects within one day, and that makes a lot of difference when you're looking to firstly discover what exactly you've got there, and then of course if there's a commercial discovery, how do you get it out the ground, how do you get it to market, and if there are several assets there that yield commercial grade discoveries, then of course you can share the resources and share the logistics between the two. So many factors, make this the assets owned by Gold Metal really attractive, and I think that's also been reflected in the share price too. So we early this year, of course, the company raised 750,000 at 15 pence. At the time, also a company called Pure Bond, who's also a major shareholder in Kavanga Resources, took a significant stake in the company. They now own 5.5%. And of course, it was also announced in March, alongside the fundraising, that the company would launch its first ever drilling campaign at Pilot Mountain. And indeed, we had results back a week ago from Pilot Mountain. Two magnetic high-grade anomalies have been discovered within the porphyry target area, and we heard yesterday, a few days ago, from the company that on the basis of what they discovered, they put together a 3D inversion of the magnetic data sets, and what that 3D image has confirmed is a very significant large buried magnetic body, and on the back of that, the company's been able to optimize a drill target or drill hole target to hit the core of the highest magnetic shell. This goes down really deep. It's a kind of stacked system, so there's an awful lot under the ground there. But on the back of this 3D work, the company's also staked a further 12 claims, and Oliver said that on the back of this data, the company is now perfectly positioned. It's got multiple exciting porphyry targets, both at Pilot Mountain and of course Garfield, which I'll come to in a second. But on the back of the huge increase in the copper price that we're seeing this driving forward, so many copper projects are coming to the fore, and copper exploration is ramping up exponentially in the US on the back of that. So back to Garfield. In March, of course, the company announced it had porphyry and epithermal style mineralization at the power line, high grade and Pamlico gold zones, that magnetic bullseye, of course, close to high grade zone as well. And certainly that continued into April. The magnetic survey there detected significant anomalies next to the power line zone and high grade zones. And all of a sudden at that point, what the company had most likely was a stack system with large buried magnetic bodies at depth. And the company is of the opinion that a mineralized copper porphyry system may exist at Garfield. So the company has two copper projects with huge potential within a very short distance of each other. So what I said earlier about sharing the logistics, sharing the resources, if both these projects develop and become or develop to commercial grade, what that will mean is quite simply, it'll be relatively cheap to run because you can probably share processing resources and all the rest of it. But of course, the extent of that will be established firstly by the preliminary economic estimate on both a PEA for both projects, and then of course moving to a PFS, a pre-feasibility study, to look at the feasibility to develop both projects, perhaps together, perhaps separately, and then of course ultimately the DFS, which then leads to the mine being built and production. But perhaps I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I think if you look at the progress that's been made by Oliver and the team since Gold Metal came to market, they've got some really exciting developments at two projects, and they still have really strong findings announced early this year from the Kibbe Basin, the significant lithium brine likely at depth from the data that they've undertaken there. And of course, they have the Stonewall project to work on, and they also have the Golconda Summit project too. So really, with the two key assets, we already know there's a long-established tungsten mineral resource estimate at Pilot Mountain. There's now a significant copper porphyry target, which the company will be drilling shortly. But then we have the Garfield asset as well, and I think Oliver and the team are going to be delivering a lot of news and developments on drilling in the coming months, and I think we're set for a very exciting summer. But I think you can also see, you look at the news flow from Gold Metal, the company issued a lot of warrants at 10.75p. Those expire, I think it's today, but I think there's a week's grace on exercising those. But there have been so many warrants exercised at 10.75p, and the share price has stuck firm. Obviously, when you see exercises like this, you can often see a tail off in the price because the market looks and says, well, there's dilution there. But that hasn't happened here, and that I find very encouraging indeed. And that's, I think, a real sign of the potential, the nascent potential in both these assets at present, which Oliver and his team will be proving up in the coming months.
Indeed, and it starts tomorrow, Alan. We're recording this on Friday the 10th, and tomorrow is the 11th, and that's when the drilling is going to start.
Fantastic. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, very quickly, hopefully, from the last interview we spoke, we could hear back from some of those initial drilling. I know the first one they're going for is that porphyry target, that big blob that's on the 3D map there that we talked about with Oliver. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, exciting times. I'm glad Oliver's getting started. And definitely keeping tabs on how things are going throughout the summer. I do want to do a special feature with Oliver where we'd go into the drill program in more detail so investors can really get the picture of what the plans are throughout this active season. But bring it on, Oliver. Let's see what Pilot Mountain's got.
yeah. But I think, Oliver obviously he's on the ground most of the time over there, and we're going to be seeing, I'm sure, some social media of the drilling underway. We'll see some clips, I'm sure, in the coming days and weeks. And it's a really exciting time. This, they call the drill the truth machine, but I think what we've already seen on the magnetic imaging that's been provided and the historical data, of course, are drill targets and porphyry targets with huge potential that go very, very deep indeed.
Indeed. Well, thank you as always, Alan, and then do enjoy, hopefully, a very pleasant weekend, and we'll speak again next week.
Thank you, Mark. Have a great weekend.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like, or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.